Nemophila with the Gozo mini album, and we are here on our track by track listen through to listen to the very last song. We've got all the way to the end so quickly because it is only a mini album of 5 songs, and as I mentioned, I'd already reacted to 2 of them a little bit ahead of time anyway because they came out in advance. So we're already on Pump It Up, the very last track on the mini album. And do you know what? I'm kind of excited to hear where we go with this one because so far we've had an album that's definitely focused on heavy. It's been a self-written, self-produced ride, so it's been raw, but at the same time, very well balanced. You can feel what they're going for. Every song feels like it's hitting the mark that it's intended to hit, but definitely this has been all about high energy all the way through. The last song, Namas, took us in a different direction, breaking down to like a halftime headbang. So I have no idea what to expect with Pump It Up. I mean, it sounds kind of like just a fun blast of a song, and given we've had some pretty intense songs so far, and given that the last song, the penultimate song, was a mid-tempo one, I think ending on just like a high energy burst of fun is probably the way to go with this one. That's what I'd like to see. By the way, also, I did actually check Gozo because I can see the kanji, the name for the album is up the top there, Gozo. And it's like, I knew it was like 5 something. So I looked it up to see what it meant. Also because I was looking at this album cover, and because we've been obviously listening to the audio versions of these songs, they don't have videos. And so I'm just staring at the album cover and I look at it going, it's a bit weird. That is a bit of a weird cover, and I wanted to understand it. And so it's like it's something to do with 5 systems, and this is some kind of holistic Chinese medicine thing. And so I actually just between the last 2 songs, I was sitting down doing a fair bit of reading, trying to work out whether there was any scientific validity to it. It was kind of really interesting read about it. It seems to be a partially old world science-based thing that is maybe a little bit old-fashioned, but is not completely. It's not like what they call it. It's not like the stuff where they try and rub crystals on you to make your broken leg heal. But yeah, it seems to be like an old world explanation of the body and how the different parts of the body interact and work together. So hence why the cover seems to be about like, the mind is one of the parts of the body, one of the 5 parts. And then you have like the liver and the kidney and all that. So okay, it's an interesting angle. You can see where they're going for it. And obviously there's eyes at the top. And you can see the angle that they're going for with this album. It's really... they're going to a deep place, but it seems that the deep place they're going to is anger. It's been a very angry album, Nemophila. Anyway, let's end this up. This is Pump It Up. It's a joy. It sounds like we're about to get like an 80s dance rap track with a name like that. Let's find out. I don't think we are going to. Let's find out what we get. Okay, yeah, they're going straight and we're just like throwing everything at the wall. I'm loving the switching between like the clean melodic vocals and the backing vocals. A little bit of screaming there as well. You can really hear Taboo's having fun on this. Little Tom runs, getting on the bell with the cymbal. I was going to go mid-tempo there, but instead we're getting straight into the build-up. Okay, there's no doubt. You can tell what the feeling was they're going for in this one. This is just the throw everything at the wall song. I'm noticing the two opposing guitar lines there. It's really interesting, left and right. I'm wondering if Mayu's playing one of the guitar lines on this, or if it's just layered in the studio. This is kind of interesting. I've got to be honest. This is kind of interesting because this takes us back into a similar place to where we were with Oblivious, and to a certain degree, things like Versus Ego as well. Takes it. So I would say the majority of this album, we're definitely getting a straight feeling for what it's going. But now, I think most of what I would say about this song, I would probably have said similar things as what I said about Oblivious. Although I think, to be honest, I think this is much more just a straight shooting, raw, blasting kind of rock song. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to kind of more focus on generally giving my feelings about the whole little mini album as a get-go, and as a whole, really. From the get-go to the end, what I actually kind of thought about it as a wrap-up. Because I think listening back at this, obviously the intent going into Gozo, was to make an album that was self-produced, self-mixed. I think that was the remit: self-written, produced, and mixed. I know there was one other person involved. From my understanding of what I've been told and what I read, there was one other person involved who I think they were doing the mastering or something. Forgive me I can't remember exactly what the deal was with that. But it was about Nemophila are going to put this one together themselves. It's going to be the most Nemophila record yet. And so I think that there comes a certain degree of expectations with that. You obviously, by saying, look, there's going to be no one else involved, what you're basically saying is it's easy to infer from that what they're describing is a raw album. It's going to be nothing that doesn't need to be there. It's going to be just us. And I think the sound of the album definitely conveys that. It definitely conveys a feeling of this is just Nemophila being Nemophila. There's a little bit of production, but very little production in there. There's these songs as a general kind of have a rawness in that they're very heavy is the best part. There aren't really any of the sort of the ballads or anything. I try to remember the name of there's a friend of mine who really doesn't like one of the old ballads. Odyssey. There's no like Odysseys or anything on here, nothing like that. You're going to get slow piano numbers. This is all just them. So it's all going to be raw and probably therefore aggressive. And that's kind of the road it went down. And so I think it was wise to make it a 5-track as a result. So what does that leave us with? Well, I think because it's 5 tracks and all 5 tracks are relatively short as well, you're basically looking at a recording look at that. 4 minutes, 2 minutes. Yeah, that's 5 minutes between them, 9 minutes, 12 minutes. It's basically a quarter of an hour. It's 15 minutes in total, the whole thing. Average about 3 minutes per track. For 15 minutes, this is just a 15-minute blast of energy. I get it. That works totally. I think this would be something you could put it on if you just needed a 15-minute high-energy, head-banging scream. Yeah, this really works well in that sense. It's direct. It's got a little bit of variation, a few switches up, but the one thing that stays true is that it's high energy from beginning to end. If I were to compare it, though, against their last 2 releases, I'm obviously looking... Well, I'm kind of thinking primarily in terms of like Evolve and in terms of Apple of My, which obviously are both made in very different circumstances. I feel like this definitely, for me, doesn't quite scratch the same itch of creativity as that. I don't feel like it goes into as many different sounds, plays with many things. But again, they were full-length albums. This feels like very much like a short concept. Like, we're just going to go heavy, heavy, heavy. And in that sense, therefore, I do think it works, like I say, as that. But I feel it kind of leaves me still like, okay, I enjoy this, but it kind of leaves me waiting for the next Nemophila album. Because, like with any band who have really either got like a strong reputation for songwriting or have really developed as songwriters, as Nemophila has, then you kind of, the reason why the full-length albums are so good is because you get to hear so much. You know, they can take you to so many places, and if it's a well-structured album, they can take you to so many places in like a journey that feels effortless. So I kind of want that. This kind of felt like it very much relied on and needed itself to be 15 minutes, to be short, to be a blast, to be something where it could get through just being constantly turned up to 11 without any real, you know, there was variation, but not as, I mean, just put it this way, I feel like the song Progress has probably more variation just in that one song than this does in the entire album. And yet I feel like any one of the individual songs on this album probably has more variation in it than anything that Nemophila put out in the first year or two of their existence. You know, so this is kind of an interesting place where it's definitely, it's not quite as exciting to me as like Apple of My Eye was, but it's not like it's fully returning to that first phase of the band that I found to just be every song kind of just, even the songs that weren't covers felt like they were covers. This is definitely a much more bright and interesting sound. One of the things you can tell here is, for example, you can kind of much more make out that the bass lines in this are a little bit more simple, a little bit more raw. There's not quite as much, it's kind of more just charging bass lines. The kind of thing that, again, when you hear those charging bass lines in bands like Love Bites, you tend to kind of like, I mean, I'm a big bass line fan, but I tend to like not be too bothered about bass lines in Love Bites songs because you kind of know these are songs that don't. This is like the one type of music where the bass is just going to be rumbling along in the key throughout. And I kind of got the feeling this was doing a similar thing here. This was not the kind of music where the bass had a huge amount to do. And, you know, neither did really. The guitars had some solos, but it was mostly fairly straight riffing. A lot of what Mayu was doing was very much scream vocals, so she did have a couple of sung lines. So it was mostly pretty simple stuff on this. And I don't mean that in a derogatory way. I mean that more just to explain why kind of like I feel like you have to have the right expectations before going into this one. But I think the one person who did have fun on this, Tamu definitely had fun on this. The drum lines and the percussion, you could hear that she was looking for spaces to do fun little things, from the crazy cowbells and stuff we had earlier in the albums to the fun little fills and the tom runs and everything. She was having a lot of fun with this, but I would say this is very much a simple, raw pleasure. It doesn't really take Nemophila, as an album, doesn't really take Nemophila to anywhere they haven't been. It doesn't really add that much for Nemophila sound, but it does prove that they can do their own stuff on their own if they want to, and it does also set itself up modestly as a 15-minute blast, and in that sense, yeah, it works. It's 15 minutes. It blasts through. If you need an adrenaline boost, 15 minutes is a pretty good period of time to get an adrenaline boost for. And then it's done. So, yeah, those are my thoughts. As always, let me know in the comments what you think. I'm looking forward to the next album. I am looking forward to hearing a little bit more of their music with less of the screams. Again, you know, it's one of those things. I get it. A lot of metalheads really like that. For me, I like it in a little bit. Whereas this album felt like it was majority scream, which just like, I gotta be that to me kind of like didn't give any room for like any interesting melodies or anything to develop. And you can have a proper high energy melody. Melody doesn't just mean you're all suddenly going Sound of Music. I mean, Chester Bennington was singing melodies. You know, so for me, there wasn't really much room for melody to develop. So I just kind of felt like this was an album where the energy was there, but I didn't hear a huge amount musically that really grabbed me. Just kind of like simple headbanging 15-minute blast. Anyway, I think I've said that a few times now. You get my point. Get in the comments and let me know what you think. And until I hopefully see you very soon in Japan for the next one of these, coffee time. For now, need more adrenaline. Ciao, ciao.